All right, kick this off. All right, so we're going to talk about the bot framework. For those don't know what bot means, it's not a robot. It's a chatbot. Something that you might see in Skype, Facebook Messenger is pretty popular, Slack. Bot that lives in some type of chat service that you can allow it to do some pretty cool stuff. So that's what this is. If you think it's a robot, sorry, it's not what it is. So I'm Adam. I am a senior consultant here at PSC Group. Actually, the bulk of my experience is in .NET for about 10 years, but within the last couple of years, I've done a fair amount of JavaScript, some Angular, React. I'm trying to find time to learn, but yep, big fan of JavaScript as well. And the bot I'll show you is using JavaScript. So here's the agenda for today. I'm going to give you an overview of the bot framework. I'm going to show you what bots can do, what some inputs and outputs that how we can interact with the bots, how we can interact back with you, where do bots live, the various channels that we can access the bots that we create. I'm going to make a bot in front of you, kind of semi-live coding, which hopefully doesn't go too awry. And I'm going to show you some demos, and then some things thinking a little beyond bots and what we can use with this type of framework. So go over the bot overview. We know what a bot is now. What's the bot framework? So the bot framework, developed by Microsoft, is something that enables you to create one single bot engine, what have you, that interacts with all these various different chat clients. Things like Slack, Skype, Facebook, and you can even embed within a website. So I'll show you some of those, what are those various channels that we can deploy this to. The bot framework that Microsoft released is currently free, and I don't know if it will ever not be free. They're not making indications that they'll charge for it. They're really just hoping that you host, if you do create a bot, they're hoping that you can be hosted in Azure. You don't have to, I believe. I haven't tested that, so don't quote me on that. What technologies do we know? So there's two different flavors that Microsoft published when they published this API, or this framework. C# and using Web API, which we will not show you today because this is not a Microsoft Meetup, or using JavaScript and Node. So they support both different stacks there. So where's some use cases? Now some of these I have are kind of more business related. Obviously if you've heard of bots, maybe you kind of think of it in the context of, ordering a pizza through Domino's. That's one that's very popular now, that people are literally just going to their phone through text messaging and interacting with the bot to order something. I know AT&T sends me a bill if I've missed my bill saying, hey, you missed your bill. Would you like to pay using the text messaging? Those are examples of bots. But some other things that you can do as well is maybe some service ticket generation. For business purposes, I want to open up a ticket, interact with it through that medium without having to go to a website. Scheduling booking, that's pretty common. Enterprise data retrieval, automation triggers. So a lot of times you'll see, and this is very geeky, people actually integrate their continuous integration builds using bots to kick off a build process and kind of interact it, almost treat it like a CLI in a way. And that's kind of neat. Simple form entry, reporting, alerting, and then FAQ, or knowledge base. So what can bots do? Well, so there's a couple different, now this is going to be in the context of Skype, but these are equivalent to Slack and some other ones. So some things that I can feed it, obviously I can feed it rich or plain text. I can feed it an image. This bot framework supports up to 20 meg. I can feed it video, up to a minute, so little short videos or GIFs, those are popular now. And then some custom authentication. So another thing that they've introduced is how can I authenticate with third-party libraries or services to go ahead and do some data retrieval or things like that, integrations. I can also not just have text that come back, but some rich content coming back. So they support kind of some of these things here. We got a hero card, which gives me maybe a picture and some options I can actually click and select without having to type. I could do a carousel view, or I can swipe over, and then, or I want to see a receipt. Maybe I'm doing a booking on a hotel, and I can have receipt kind of format come back to me, and it makes it really nice and presentable. Now, obviously, if this was over text message, I wouldn't get this rich content. This rich content's depending on how the client implements it and if they implement it. But the big ones like Slack and Skype, they both have all these recipes here. So, question.
Sorry. I get the idea, or I get what you were saying about how this is going to be presented based on the client, but going back to where you had a limitation on like the video size, is that a Microsoft Bot framework limitation, or is that?
I believe it's a Microsoft Bot framework limitation.
Okay.
So you route through Microsoft because Microsoft, what it's doing mainly is abstracting the various connections, and you having to write a specific Slack bot and deal with those APIs. So they're putting a layer of abstraction on top of all these various channels and outlets that you can deploy these bots to, and making it really dead simple to have one engine deployed to all these various channels. So that's why that's where the restriction comes into place. So the messaging is flowing through Microsoft and then porting over to really quickly to the actual services.
Cool, thank you.
So where can bots live? So I talked about the various channels, Skype, Microsoft Teams, which is kind of a Slack competitor. Then you got Facebook Messenger is another one. Slack, Kit, I think that's kind of, I don't know if that's popular here. Telegram, I think again, overseas that's a little bit more popular. GroupMe is here, I've played with that. And then some other interesting ones, you can actually embed this into a site. They'll give you kind of a little script tag that you can just literally pop in and you get a whole chat client within there and you can style it to your liking. They also have exposed a REST API, so if you want to just really build your own experience around interaction, maybe you want to embed it into a mobile application, there's actually a REST API that they expose as well. And then another two here I see email, and then Twilio, which will handle all your SMS, text-based messaging. Questions? And they're growing, and they're, this is ever changing. Hosting options now, Microsoft's hoping to releasing something like this is that you use Azure because they really have a really easy experience for getting up and started with a bot. I'm going to go through that. I'm going to literally create a bot from scratch today, if the demo gods allow me to, and they make it a really nice experience. But you're not limited to that. It is just a Node.js server somewhere that you can point to. It will still require you to register with Microsoft, register the bot with Microsoft, create a Microsoft account, but where the actual logic of the engine lives, you have some control over that.
Question.
Sure.
So does it still require a connectivity to the Microsoft Azure framework?
Yes,
to run?
It is routing through Microsoft because they're taking care of the handoff to the various channels like Slack or Skype or things like that. They're abstracting that for you as long as you use their framework.
The little Microsoft ads all over it.
There's no Microsoft ads. I don't think they'll do that, but
You'd be sending it by email to you as a
yeah.
as advertisement.
Yeah. So we're going to create a bot. So I'm going to slide over to Azure. So what I'm going to show you where I'm going to host this is in something called Azure Functions. The AWS equivalent is Azure Lambda. It's literally the ability, it's serverless computing. It's literally the ability to only get charged for the computes that you have and not something that's running all the time. So serverless is a really nice fit for this because then you don't have to pay for it if it's not being executed. So that's what I'm going to do. So and this is the Azure portal. So I got option down here, a bot service. I'm going to go ahead and create one. Now, let me explain what the bot I'm about to create. So what I'm going to create, I have something over here. For those who don't know, this is Twilio. Twilio is Trello. Twilio is the SMS. Trello, and Trello is just a simple, what do you call it? Kind of a task-based Kanban board that's really simple and pretty much free. That's kind of popular. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a bot that actually will add a Twilio card for us, because we're lazy, you know, because Twilio is really hard to use. Trello. Trello. It sounds so similar. So Trello board.
Woo!
There we go. All right, so we're gonna keep that there. It's gonna take us a little work to get that going, but I have a simple Trello board, and I have some lists within that Trello board, and we're gonna attempt to add a card. That's our goal. So we'll call it a Trello bot, and I'm sure I'm not the only one to make one. So let's do 1, 2, 3. Yes, exist. All right. I'll use accepting subscription. Put it under that. And we are in the data center we want this in. Say the North Central US, and we'll hit the create button. So what it's going to do is it's going to spin up a Azure Functions server, or service rather, and it's going to create that bot for me. And usually that's pretty quick, but let me go switch back there. So I'm going to kind of talk about the steps that are involved. I'm going to create the service. I'm going to Azure's going to actually give me a starter bot to go ahead and give me a good starting point to actually start developing on. And we're going to use a couple things called Lewis, and I'll get to that in a minute. Let's see if this is done. Okay, I got that going. All right, so the first thing I have to do is I have to create a Microsoft App ID. This is going to be my ID of the bot. So we'll go ahead and do that. So I'm just going to call it the Trello bot 123. It assigns me an app ID. It's my unique identifier for the bot. It's going to generate an app password. Everyone cover their eyes. Super secret password. Not really. Come back over here. Plug that password in. And now I have a couple languages. Do I want to create a C# one? Do I want to create a Node.js one? I'm going to create Node.js. And then what template would I like to use? Now there's a couple different templates here I can talk to really quick. A basic one is kind of I ask it a question, a very specific question that matches a certain context and it responds to me back. That's kind of boring. So I'm going to elevate a little further. I'm going to use language understanding. And what this is going to do is going to use one of Azure's cognitive services to actually help me derive intent from what a user asks through its bot. Now, I'm going to show you this, so bear with me, and I'll explain what that is. But let's go ahead and start creating that bot. Now, what this is going to do, it's going to provision something in Lewis, again, which is Microsoft's cognitive service that's going to help me interpret what the user's trying to ask. So we'll hit continue. Make sure it kicks off. All right, that's going to take a couple minutes, so I'll explain what these things are. What is Lewis? I'm thinking I forgot to put the slide in. Yep, I did. All right. So I'm going to verbally tell you what Lewis is. Lewis stands for Language Understanding Intelligence Service. And what it does is, if I say to Lewis, I want to create a card. There's various different ways a user can ask for that. And really, I don't care all the different ways they ask for that. I just want to derive what they're trying to do. Now, yes, could I program some really elaborate neural network to do that training? But I'm lazy, I don't want to do that. So therefore, what Lewis does, and I'll show you Lewis, and I'll show you how you train it and teach it how to understand how to derive intent from what a user's asking. So yeah, we'll show that, and there's a nice user interface around that. So let's go back to our bots. Still generating. This is where I do a little jig, entertain you guys.
So what are Azure Cognitive Services?
Yes. So in addition to Lewis, which is the Language Understanding Intelligence Service, Azure also offers various other services, what they call kind of a little bit of machine learning, but like a face API. So I can send it an image. You can tell me back, is it a female, approximately what age, things like that. Computer vision. This is an image of a dog. Spell check APIs, text analysis. Is this whatever this person's saying negative versus this is a positive thing, things like that. And there's a whole suite of these, and actually a lot of these you can get up to like 2,000, 3,000 calls, and Microsoft doesn't charge you for it. If you go above that, then yeah, there's a nominal charge.
Like a month or?
Month, yeah. They give you like 2,000. It's a lot.
Okay.
Because they want to get you hooked. And they're thinking, hey, if you're starting to make money with this, sharing the wealth. But a lot of this stuff is free, get up and running, and super easy to just start playing with. Sweet. All right, we have a bot. And so I'll kind of go through the process of setting this up, and then I'll jump over to Lewis and kind of show you how to do a little bit of that. So the first thing I do, what you're looking at right now, if you don't know, this is Node.js, pretty much out of the box with some template stuff that they put in there for the bot to do its thing.
So this is all happening to Azure Control Panel, right?
Yes, I am going to do all, now, and it's a good question. I'm going to do this. They created a little mini IDE within the browser to go ahead and program this bot. I am absolutely not restricted to that, and honestly, if I was building this for real, I wouldn't use this. It's great for demo, but what you can actually do is actually integrate this maybe with a GitHub repository, and then just do a little bit of a continuous integration on that, and actually use a proper text editor for developing this. So this gives me a nice little IDE, should be good for this demo, because I have the IDE here, I see my files, and I have this little chat window that I can start program a little, interact with it. You'll see it in a minute.
So we don't have any standalone ID for this?
No, it can be whatever text editor you want, because you can maybe set this up to pull from a GitHub repo or some repo, and then you can use whatever text editor, pull it down. Yeah, you're not limited to this, but you can use this as well. It's free. It's there. So, any other questions? Cool. So since this is Node, and since I'm going to interact with Trello, there's a couple of packages I need to bring in that are going to allow me to interact with Trello and do some other JavaScript-y stuff that I'll show you guys. So go to my package JSON. I'm going to add a couple of packages here. So all these packages are, someone graciously created a Node Trello NPM library, as well as Q. Q is just one to handle JavaScript promises.
You can't just use the native promises down here?
Could have, but what fun is that?
The samples use Q, shush.
Okay.
I'm showing you how to add packages in the Node. That's exciting.
Yeah, great. And you don't know what version of Node this is?
Yeah.
0.10.
Yeah, I want control over that. I want a little control over
It's
that.
4.2.3, thank you.
All right, moving on.
So I'm going to go ahead and save this. Now, since it is a Node server, I need to actually run a npm install. So to do that, I need to do a couple of interesting things. Let me just duplicate this tab.
I thought it was going to be super sexy and just see the edit to package JSON and do it. That would be cool.
No, it's not. I
You
mean,
can
it's
save, yeah.
still. I mean, it's still sexy, but not that sexy. All right. So this is just a lot of Azure type stuff here. All I'm trying to do is get to a command line. Since this is serverless, I have to kind of go through these tools. Promise there will not be a lot of this. My PowerShell come up. Zero items. I can't be right. There we go. So going to the root, going to messages. All right, here I am. Just gonna do a npm install. And this is not very glamorous, so that's just going to install the packages I added to the package.json. So we'll let that do its thing, and I'll kind of talk to what I'm going to be doing next. So now that I did that, I'm going to jump back over to my index.js. And again, like I said, this is a lot of the just boilerplate code to get this bot up and running. Right now, this bot is super stupid. So if I just kind of say, okay, how are you? Let's get in my way. Oh, by the way, I'm using the phone not to text or anything like that. It's helping me with notes and stuff. So, Mark, I was showing him that, and he's like, "Do you have to take a call or something?" No, actually. Yeah.
You're ignoring your own presentation?
So what's going to happen right now is, since it's dumb, it's not going to understand how to do anything yet, because we haven't trained it. And right now it's kind of waking up a little bit. We'll give it a moment.
Looks like a .NET application.
Hey now. Hey now, wow. That's rough. All right, let me make sure that the npm install is complete. Now it's done. What's going on with you? Wake up. Hello. I haven't done anything to you yet. Come on. All right.
So this is because your Azure function has taken you too long to warm up, isn't it?
Probably.
It'll come.
It will come. It will come. So, actually, while that's going on, probably can get into some Lewis stuff. I'll show you how that is. Yeah, come back to that. It's just waking up a little bit. So, like I said, in addition to the bot itself, we're going to use another service called Lewis. This is not required, but it's going to help me derive intents from what I'm trying to. I need something to train. So, coming back over here, Lewis has its own little portal. It's just lewis.ai, and since when I created that bot, it created me a Lewis service for me, right here.
Just out of curiosity, is it not responding because you have to do like an npm run start or something?
No, I shouldn't have to.
The downside of an Azure function is it's not generally used for immediate response. So if you're not using it on a regular basis, it basically goes to sleep. When you send out the function, it gets queued. Then it has to basically load up the function, load up the code that then executes on the function. But this is actually slower than usual.
Yeah, no, this is really slow.
It's a bot that ignores you.
Yes, exactly.
Why?
Not that stupid then, eh?
It's like my wife. Oh, wait, no.
Does this have to use the
Lateral
Lewis?
move easy.
Does this have to use the Lewis
No, it does not.
technology, or can you
It will.
use
It's
another
like,
API?
a copy.
I don't know if there's another one that does do what Lewis tries to do, and you'll see it potentially. I don't know enough about it. I guess Watson can kind of do the same thing, right?
Yes, Watson has a similar
Yes.
service, yes.
Yeah. Have you seen this, Mark? No.
This seems a bit slow.
It seems
Honestly,
a
I
bit.
would just refresh that whole page
Okay.
and then just talk about Lewis.
Yep. It's not gonna be that exciting if I
He said
can't.
that, I swear, he did this morning and it went seamlessly.
Yeah, of course, because running out of money.
He's busy.
That's the problem.
No, that's not the problem.
Well, my hat is off to you for trying to do this in Azure in real time. I'm super impressed, honestly, that you would even try it.
It'd be more impressive if I pull it off, right?
So disturbing. Your function's completed, said that it should have responded.
Yes, it should have.
You did the npm install stuff, but did you actually require those packages?
I was gonna do that next,
Oh, so that's
assuming.
not related.
Yeah, that was my
Yeah,
next step.
That's what I should have asked.
He hasn't changed the index.js at all.
Yep. I have not.
You got anything weird in the package, Jason? Extra comma, missing comma, that stuff will...
I'm just going to see if the service is actually failable, not working at all.
You can send it to their bot to see, but it won't answer either. Talk to the Azure bot.
Microsoft. You white bot problem.
There you go. Yep.
Yeah, let me, I'm going to probably have to restart this. Of course, this never. All right, let me go to overview. Probably should just restart the server. It's funny because Mark even said, yeah, you should probably just restart the server when you do that npm install. And of course I ignored him. That looks funky too, isn't it?
That's red.
Well, that's,
all I can see is the red.
no, these symbols look a little weird.
Oh,
All right, let's. Yep, it's not responding, so I'm going to just restart the node. Yes, and I am going to show Lewis. Oh, successfully restarted already. Let's see.
Yeah, it is slow, but it is working.
Mm-hmm. I have fallback bots.
Here's one I created earlier.
Yeah. Oh!
Yay!
All right.
Woo!
Just need to restart.
Just a restart.
We have a demo. It's going to get a lot more interesting, I swear, guys. I swear it's going to get a lot more interesting. All right. To your point, I need to bring those packages in.
No,
I
I
need to
didn't
require.
I told him this morning you should just restart it.
You did, and you're not going to let me live that down, are you?
Right, I'm down.
All right, fair enough, fair enough. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is going to bring in those packages that I just added using require, the Trello and the queue. And like I said, right now the bot is dumb. I just have, so if I explain what this is doing, right now on default that says if the bot doesn't understand what you're trying to do, go and run this function. And all I'm doing is a session send, which sends a communication back to the user. And I'm just saying, sorry, didn't understand that. Tough love. So now let's try to make it smart. So right now I see some commented code out, and I can see it says, okay, dot matches. Probably not. Okay, shouldn't do that. Dot matches. I'm going to add a new intent there, but I need to now go to Lewis and teach it what I want to do. So I'm going to come back over to Lewis. In the Lewis dashboard here, let me make it a little bigger. I have an intents section, and I'm going to add an intent. And my intent is going to be simply add card. I'm going to save that. So this is the kind of the umbrella of the intention that I want. Now I need to teach this thing. So I'm going to feed it a couple different ways I can ask to add a card. So let's say add a card. All right. Add a new card maybe.
Make a card.
Insert a card. I like that. Make a card, right?
Do you want a card? You can spell it as well.
Make a card. Sure.
CADR.
Yeah. Add new
I'm
card.
not going to attempt. No, not right now. I'm not going to attempt it now.
Yeah.
So let's start with those ones here. All right. This is a friendly demo. All right.
Do it like this.
Right.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Exactly. So I saved those intents. Now I've trained Lewis a little bit. I'm going to come over here and just publish. Well, I'm going to click train. So what this is going to do, I'm going to select the key. It's kind of funky. All right, I'm going to train this. And what this is going to do is going to create a model behind the scenes for us based on the entries that I had. And I'm going to publish it. So now it's published. I'm going to come back over to the bot, and I am going to put in that. Let's see. There we go. So now matches. I'm matching add card, what I added in the previous screen, and I'm going to feed it a function. So the function is going to have session, which is some session states and some caching, We'll go into that in a minute. And I'm simply just going to come back to the user. Looks like you're trying to add a card. So I'm going to save this. Come down over here and say add a card. And what should happen, it should flow into that matches and tell it looks like you're trying to add a card. Come on. There we go. Looks trying to cover it. That means if I give it junk, it should say, sorry, I don't know what the hell you're trying to say. So there we go. So I gave it a little intelligence. We'll make it a little smarter in a minute. So now that I know that they want to add a card, what's the next thing I need to do? Well, I need to know what list they want to add the card to. So I am going to, now there's a couple ways they can do this, right? They can either ask me right away saying, I want to add a idea card, or can they just say, just add a card? So I want to teach Lewis, make it a little smarter. I'll come back over here, go back to intents, say add a idea card. Now the difference is, I want idea to be more like a variable. And I'm going to say idea is a list name. All right? So add a list name card. So now I can teach Lewis to kind of parse that out for me. I'll add a couple more. Let's say inserts a idea card. Someone's getting in the way. We need a podium here. All right. Where is it? And again, I'm going to tag that. Come back over here. Ooh. Ooh. Save. There we go. Let's publish this app. Let's train it. It's going to improve the model. And we're going to publish it. Come back to the bot. And now I'm going to add what they call an entity recognizer, which sounds a lot more scary than it is. So let's go add a little bit more to this. So right now I want to get that list name from what they've entered. So I use an entity recognizer and I feed it. I want pull out anything that's a list name. And I'm just going to save this back to the user. So let me say, my wife's calling me. What bad timing. All right. All right. So add a idea card. That's not an emergency. And what should happen now is what I'm doing is I interacted with Lewis. And Lewis came back to me with the list name that it found, and it gave me some little information. I just spit it out in JSON. So I see that I know it's idea card or idea list that I have, a list name of idea, and it gives me a confidence score. And it's 82.5% confident that that's what I'm trying to do. So that's cool if they ask for it. Now, what if they don't ask for it right away? So what I'm going to do is extend this a little further. And what it's going to do now is going to ask me, if they don't ask me, I'm going to check to see if list is null. If it's null, then I'm going to say, okay, which list would you like to add the card to? If they do provide that list name right away, I'm going to just go to next, and then I'm going to pass in that list name to the next function. The next function now is just going to spit back to me and verify that I got a list name. So I'm just going to test it. I add a idea card. What should happen now, I should hit this next and then flow to the next function. I know that's idea card is what I want. And if I just say add a card, then it's going to say which card would you like to add to, and I'm going to say idea, and it's going to be happy. Now it's going to go and flow now into this next function. So two different ways of flowing into it, whether they provide that information up front or didn't, and I'm handling both scenarios. So the next thing I need to do is validate that idea. Okay.
I'm slow. So it's keeping this some kind of session state there for the dual question scenario.
Yes, and they're abstracting it all the way for you, which would probably be tricky to write.
That's pretty fancy.
That is pretty fancy, I agree. Yeah, because they could, and you know, I'm glad you asked that, because they could continue this conversation in half an hour later, and it's gonna pick up where they left off. I've tested it actually a day later for some reason, so can't claim to know how they're doing that, but they are maintaining that session. I'm assuming it dies at some point, but I haven't seen that.
You're talking like CI.
So right now I'm going to go ahead and add some Trello code that I wrapped the API just a little bit. So I'm just going to add this down to the bottom. No, not that. Trello code, please. Okay, so I just pasted some Trello API code. It's just the functions that get list by name that I just wrote, and then add a card. All right, those are the three functions I'm going to need to pull this off. So let me add a little code now to actually call that function I just added. So I'm going to come over here. All right. So now we'll see that. Now I asked them which card would like added. Come back over here. I now have that response back of the list name, and then I'm going to call this function here to get list by name. I'm feeding it my Trello ID of the board, which is just simply, in the URL here. This is a public board, and I'm going to validate that this list exists. So I'm going to save here. All right, so add a idea card again. What should happen now is I'm actually going to call that Trello API and get some information on the list. And it was successful. I got some information. I know there's one called idea. It gives me a unique identifier, which is what I'm going to need later to actually add the card. So if I say add a bad card, it's going to ask me, because I didn't teach it that. Must have not trained it right. So let's just say bad. And comes back with null because it didn't find it. So, right. So the next thing I need to do, okay, now I know what list they want to add it to. What do they want on the card? So let me add a little bit more code. Now, one thing I want to point out really quickly here, since the API calls are going to be asynchronous, you want to give the user impression that if that takes a little longer than normal, that the bot's doing something. So something I glossed over really quickly here, a session called send typing, you can actually simulate the bot looks like, it'll say the Trello bot is typing when you're doing a REST API call. And that's like, it's a big deal. Otherwise you're gonna think, oh, it's not responsive. And if that, Trello is really quick, but if it was something that took a little longer, it'd get awkward. So
I have a question.
Sure.
So these third-party libraries, which the integration you have shown, like Trello or so, is this going to be maintained by Microsoft or by?
Oh no, that's just all in NPM. So the Node Package Manager, right? There's bajillions of libraries out there. It's all open. It's just an open source library that someone wrote because they had some work to do in Trello and wrote a Node wrapper around the actual Trello API.
Use the Star Wars API or GitHub API.
Yep.
Anything.
Absolutely. Anything. And that's why I wanted to have this demo. You can literally integrate with anything you want. That's cool. That you normally could. I'll briefly say too, this also supports if I need to do some type of authentication, which I'm bypassing right now for this little demo. There's authentication cards which will then open up a browser, do your OAuth, and then it'll pass it back down to the bot, get the token, and then you can maintain that token and state. So that's a very common use case right there, especially if you want to create a public bot that you want a lot of people to use. So that's cool. So I added a little bit more code. Get list item. So now what I'm doing is I'm checking to see if list is null. If it is null, I say unable to find the name of the list. Sorry. Sad emojis. Emojis are cool, so always add emojis. Otherwise, I'm going to ask them a question. So I got session.dialog data. So this is the caching that you were talking about a little bit. So everything's stored, since this is going to be a conversation, everything needs to be maintained throughout the conversation. So I can store it in session, and I can give it whatever I want. I'm just going to call it selected list. I'm feeding it the list the list object, and then I'm prompting the user, what would you like the card to say? And once that happens, it's going to flow down to the next function, right? Because I keep appending these different functions, and I can chain as much as I want. And I'm just going to simply output, okay, you want this list, and this is what you want to say. So let's test it out. So add an idea card. What would you like the card to say? So I'm already at this point right here. Let's say something. Right. And then what I'm just going to output is say, okay, I know you want this list now, and I know you want the card to say something, So now if I said add a card and I gave it, junk, then it should hit this condition. Sad emoji, couldn't find the list. So good.
Hey Adam, can I ask something really quick? I noticed in the earlier examples you had two functions in an array, and at some point I saw you using this next, which was like a function that was passed in, but you were using it to go to the next function, I believe, in the array.
Correct.
And are you doing that at the end of every one of these functions
No,
to get
so
to the next one?
Great question. So if I'm doing a prompt, and there's some other ones, if I wanted to do some different types of actions or giving them a list of options, those take care of the next for me, because I'm asking them something. If I don't need to ask them anything, then I use the next.
So I guess
function.
what I'm saying, the order of these functions, and I notice they're not named functions, is super important.
It's super important. Yes, and then there's mechanisms that if they provided me a lot of information and I want to skip 5 functions, there's mechanisms for me to do that. And you can tag them and name them. I'm not showing that in the demo, but there's a mechanism to do that. So, good question. Any questions? Awesome. All right. So, unable to find a card. What would you like the card to say? I think the next logical thing here, people, is that we just need to add the card. So let me go ahead and add a little bit more code. So now I added a little bit more code. So I'm going to kind of put this in some variables, the card content, the selected list. I'm going to grab that in, and then I'm going to call Trello API to actually add the card itself. And I'll let them know that it's added and give it some geeky information here. So let's go ahead and save that, and we'll test it. So I'll add a idea card.
On a Trello?
I'm combining the two now. That's just mean.
Oh, let you get to the end.
It's a comment. It's a comment. Oh. What would you like the card to say? We're good. So please work. Yay. What we should see, that is that magically. We got it's actually integrate with Trello, and I chose Trello because I knew that it's constantly refreshing, so that's kind of cool. And we added a card, and I came back with some really geeky information on what's in the card, and there's some other attributes I could have set. But yeah, that's a successful integration with completely 2 different systems. So that's neat. So that's the extent of how far I'm going to take this bot. But let me show you where, like I said, this bot can live. So I'll save that. Any questions before I continue?
Yeah, you should put a card emoji at the end. You should have like playing card or something.
Oh, that would have been good.
Yeah, no, the reason I say that seriously is because I think the emoji factor, for some reason, it makes the bot feel alive.
Yeah, it does.
And so it's a really neat touch. It's so simple, but very neat.
Completely agree. Completely agree. So, like I said, as I was going through the PowerPoint, these are all the channels that I can play. So now we're talking about why would I be interested in something like this? Sure, I could develop for each one of these and use their APIs. Maybe some of them use Node as a backend, maybe not, who knows. Using something like this, Microsoft extracts that for you. So I'm going to show this same bot living in Skype. So let me, this sometimes gets precarious. So let me copy this link address. For some reason, it likes to know, it likes this in Safari. So I'm going to it gives me a URL. Now what's cool is because I could play with this bot, I could send this URL to someone and they can get the bot right away without me actually having to publish it. So I'm going to add this to my contacts.
But there's nothing preventing them from tweeting it out or sharing it with a million other people.
Nope. I think you're restricted a certain level without actually doing a formal publish. I don't know what that is.
Okay.
And kind of guessing at that. I don't remember exactly what that. All right, I don't know, for whatever reason, it always wants me to open in my VM, so I'm not going to do that, cancel. So I'm going to come over to Skype, which I should have open. All right, that was my previous bot. Contacts. So I don't see it yet here. Let me quit Skype and open. It takes sometimes it just.
I have a question.
Sure.
So you signed into Skype as the bot, right?
I'm adding bot as a contact in my Skype.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Yeah. No. So that was just me logging into Skype normally.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see now.
Yeah.
And you're trying to add the bot as a contact so you can talk to it. Got it.
A lot of me nice bot answering everybody's questions.
No, I thought the bot maybe needs to be connected.
Right.
Like that.
Oh, I made a bot. They answered the question like 2 a.m. That's weird. I don't know.
Open. Start Skype.
There's a lot of editing.
All right. So here's the bot that I just added to my contacts list. And like I said, I can interact with this. So add a card. And it's super small, isn't it, guys? Yeah, I don't know how to make that bigger right now without doing a lot of crazy stuff. So working in Skype just fine. Just verify that it works. Let's call it, there was a list called backlog. So I'll add to that list. What would you like the card to say?
Oh, bring up the list, man.
This is so cool.
Adam, bring up the list.
No,
It's not fast enough.
no. There it is. Oh, I didn't see it in real time, but it's there. It is there.
I kind of believe it.
I could have had that already
May have been
hidden.
there before.
Yeah, that was it's so fake.
You had the rabbit in the hat the whole time.
All right, well, all right. You know what? I'm gonna do one last thing then, because I got
Is it put
got
Skype
haters.
next to the browser and do it again?
One of the cool things.
He's just a guy behind the wall typing in the room.
Exactly right. One of the cool things that I want to point out is what stops me from using this on my mobile device? Nothing. It's just Skype, right? So I got a Trello bot 123. I don't know. Let's see. Add a idea card.
Yeah, I'm just curious how. Pretty much you just if you type almost
No.
anything with card, would it figure it out
So
at this point?
I would have to spend a little bit more time training Lewis, but actually the benefit of Lewis is it can do spell checking for me, and it could. Once you train enough different ways to request, it will actually start to assume if they say something that you've not captured, it will figure it out for you.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's hard for me to kind of demonstrate that because I had to feed it a lot because I had to build up the model. But it is using some intelligence. I am actually training it. Now, just sending it 3 things is not enough. But if I send it more things and I keep training it, Lewis will actually say, okay, it may not be 100% confident, but if it's over a certain threshold of confidence, it'll assume, okay, I want to add that card. And I'll talk about that in a minute. I'm glad you brought that up. So I'm just going to say, let's ever So I'm gonna swip over here. And what we should see from my mobile device.
You covered it.
There it is. Oh, it's right there, I swear. Oh, my shadow? Oh, damn it.
Hey, Adam. Shoot, you know what? You might cover it when go ahead. Sorry.
So, again, I touched on Lewis briefly. There's a lot more here. There's entities. There's out-of-the-box entities where I can actually add. Do I want this to be an age? Is this an email? Is it something that would be in an encyclopedia? Is it money? Is it a date? And then if it's a date, you can handle 1,000 different ways you can represent a date. They can abstract it all for me. Temperature, things like that. So,
Can you
yeah.
just open that intent which we created?
And then the intent?
Yeah. Can you just open?
Yeah, and another thing that it does too is if I ask it in a different way. So here's some other things. I gave it garbage, right? It's going to keep track of the other ways people are trying to ask for it. It's going to log those, and then I can say, you know what? I want this to actually be a part of this intent, or I can reassign it. So I can see what people are trying to do, and then reassign it so I know what's going on. If you want to take this to the next level, you can actually use the confidence score. If it's over a certain threshold, you can actually, Lewis itself has APIs, so you can ask the user, is this what you want? If they ask it in a really different way, and then you can feed this to be feed that back in, because they can confirm it. And if you want to be really fancy, if a certain amount of people confirm the same way of asking the same thing, you add this to the record. And then it's sentient, and then it takes over the world. So,
damn it, we did not discuss that this morning.
No, you're always saying about world domination. This is one step down that path.
Not for you, it's not supposed to be.
Is there any language recognition, like translations?
Yes, well, so there is a translation API I can utilize as well. Yes, and that would be a really good fit for something like this.
So under the suggested utterances, does it do any aggregation? Because let's say the bot gets moderately popular, right? And people are trying to add a card, and you have, let's say 10,000 failed attempts. Does it tell you, at least in the group, these are the most common things?
I haven't exercised it enough to even know or looked up.
Okay.
That's a good question. I would hope so, because otherwise that would be.
Right, how do you manage this on its own? This becomes a full-time job to kind of manage it.
Correct.
And keep it fit, right?
Yeah.
But with the API, you could write your own web page to do that for you. Because you can get all the data out of here and put it on your own web page and look at someone else if you wanted to.
Yeah, you can actually do your own aggregation if you wanted it to be that sophisticated. Yeah, this is just their UI. Everything here is it was API first developed. So, yeah.
So it is exportable.
Oh yeah, well, using the REST APIs, it's exportable. Actually, I know I take that back. Actually, might be super exportable. I never play with these, but I can actually download the model. Gives me a JSON or CSV. Guess I can see what's in the CSV.
CSV?
I don't know. I never did this.
Technically.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah.
Oh,
Can't export it. I learned something new. Actually, this gives me everything. Okay.
Hey, Adam. So my question earlier, and I think it fits in now, is, and maybe this goes against the whole Lewis gets smarter, but I see you plugging in all these different strings, add a card, add the card, whatever, and they have the little delimiters for some sort of variable, but can you use something like regular expression to define a whole bunch at once?
Absolutely.
Or to not have to?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's you can add regular expressions in here.
You wanted to see him fail, didn't you?
Yeah.
You just asked him if he could
There
write
you
a
go.
regular
Learn
expression.
support from the right.
Real time.
You happy, Joe? You happy? I am. Big nerd.
That was a mean question.
But I was ready for
Well,
it.
if you need help with regular expressions, I got a serious one, egghead.
It was all to get that plug-in, wasn't it? That was all that was about.
So,
That's a
question
lot
for
of
you.
typing.
So, is Microsoft aggregating other people using the same type of bots and using that to improve their analytics?
I don't know. It would be stupid if they weren't, but I would hope so if they're smart, because that can make it even more intelligent. Maybe that's why they're giving it away for free. Who knows? I don't know their motives, honestly.
So, but just to go on from that, actually, so that you know, if you're not using Lewis, your entire communication is actually encrypted. So I don't know if they have access to those encryption keys. The only reason it's recorded in here is because he's using Lewis and he's sending it to Lewis on purpose. Your normal conversation is actually fully encrypted end to end.
Yeah.
So that in theory Microsoft, because you're feeding it through Microsoft into somebody else, in theory they cannot screw around with that. And you can actually, if you don't use it with the framework, you can actually do it from scratch yourself. And it goes through all sorts. You've got to verify tokens. You've got to verify. There's like 3 or 4 steps that you can actually verify where it came from, what it was, and who sent it. So you can actually manually verify that this encryption was correct.
And I was wondering if, like Watson, to try and build a database to help improve the process.
I don't know about Watson, but in theory they should not be able to do that here unless you already use Lewis.
Lewis, yeah.
The normal conversations they could not listen to.
Yeah.
Now, if you use Skype, they're totally listening. So is the NSA.
Oh, yeah.
So is everybody else. That's different.
All the stuff that you had pre-typed out and just pasted in, is this stuff that was in like the API docs?
I assume.
I just hand-rolled it. What?
I'm just wondering, like, where you got the, like how you're pinging the Trello, how you're accessing it.
Oh, that was the NPM.
Oh, show her your cool code.
No, I don't think that's what she's asking. So, I don't know. Actually, I don't know what you're asking
I guess
now.
because I'm trying to figure out, like, if you wanted to then also go in and edit the description within the card, what would you put in to be able to go deeper into the? Because I use Trello a lot, and I'm wondering how you'd.
Yeah, I got what you're saying. So.
Like
When
to ask another question, like what the description would be.
Yeah. And I was thinking about even incorporating that, but time's a bitch. But so yeah, it was just the API. I can give a description, position, due dates, list ID, and even populate those things. And there's even more. It's Trello. I mean, they expose everything in their API. I think that's why they're popular. That's why a lot of people integrate, and there's a lot of integrations for it. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was a cool demo because it's like, I have an idea. I just want to throw it on Trello and just interact with it, chat. Don't want to log in, nothing.
So hopefully the NPM library has some good docs on it.
Yep. Yeah. So the NPM library is just a node wrapper around their. They already provide you a JS file for the client's stuff. So someone just wrote a nice little wrapper around that. I was just lazy,
And that was called Node-Trello.
It was Node-Trello. Yes, I just found it on a whim. There's like 5 different versions. It's NPM. It's a mess. So I picked the right one and it worked. That's pretty much that decision.
It could be power. So
we'll fight later. So there's a couple.
You've got plenty of time.
Got plenty of time?
I'll keep going.
Okay, so let's show you one other thing. This is actually my first forte into bots. This was kind of a little proof of concept we did internally at PSC because we wanted to explore the technology a little bit more. And at PSC we have a labs committee that I'm part of, and Mark is as well, where we explore new exciting things. I know it sounds a little pluggy, but I created a little node bot. I gave this one an icon, because I want to make it cute. And so this is another one that I created that actually interacts with REST API. And I know it's really small. I don't have a way to make it bigger.
You can do like a font bump.
Can you go to view?
How do you do that?
Preferences somewhere would be my guess.
It should be make text bigger. Yeah, Command plus.
There you go. Command plus. You didn't even try that
That's
already?
like the standard.
Really?
text
How long have you been
always
using a Mac?
bigger.
Not that long, actually.
Thank you, sir.
Jeez,
Command plus, Command 0 is reset back to normal, Command minus.
Stop the turnip truck there, man.
It just works.
I've been using a Mac for actually only 8 months.
It just works.
Are you actually a developer?
I'm a big fake.
You're lip syncing.
Damn, he's going red. We've called him.
Tell us about your bot.
So I have a little bot.
Tell us how your bot just works.
Anyways,
I like the new guy.
let's see if it even now. See, you scared it off, and now it doesn't want to work.
Just jump back in your history. Get showed up.
What you can tell from this is he hasn't actually tested whether this was going to work since February the 8th.
No, I did not. No, I did not.
It might be asleep, right? I don't know that.
I swear I tested this
It only
morning.
works if the font size is 9, so you're done.
Do you need to restart the service?
No, if this doesn't work, it just doesn't work, and it's not working.
No, restart. I want to see.
I don't even.
Yeah, it's Windows. Restart.
I mean Azure. No more Azure stuff in front of these guys. This is the last time.
This is the only reason he organises this, because otherwise we wouldn't let him come.
You got $100 worth of free
Okay,
Azure time.
it does work.
There
You
you
just
go.
need to wake up. All right, so
I love Windows.
it asked, I asked what can I help you with today, so I gave some options. This is not using Lewis. This is just really simple, question answer. So I'm gonna say I'm gonna search for product. I entered one. What product are you interested in? Always use the, it's a database of food and beers. So I'm gonna say I'm interested in some type of lager. So now you see it's typing because I'm doing an asynchronous call to another service that's probably asleep as well. Damn it.
You had something to say.
Typing.
Yeah, there's a timeout on that. I swear once this happens, it'll be a lot quicker. Just like waking up. We're not putting big beefy servers around this stuff, guys. It's just the cheapest. There we go. Look, so I found 2 products. I'll do the Outback Lager. That sounds fun. And now I have interaction. Okay, what would you like to know more about this product? Maybe give me a product forecast. And what this is going to demonstrate is it's actually going to talk to a REST API. It's actually going to generate a graph for me on the fly and spit it back out to me so I can, just kind of show you that it can do a little bit more rich content. Not very exciting graph, no. And then maybe I want to say, give me some more information. And let's say some order information.
I feel like you should be like, pick up lamp, go through door.
Did you give up on me? Maybe not.
You got your cycles now you swapped out.
Exactly. Yeah, I only had a couple more bucks in that subscription. That might have been it. I'm happy it got me through. Anyways, it just showed you a list of products. And you can have a hyperlink that maybe navigates to another system that is an entry point to another system. So just kind of showing that. I think that's pretty much it.
Do it. Look, you've got time. They're here till 8:30.
Example of the
They can leave. If they're bored, they can leave. Don't forget that. There is nothing keeping them here other than you. Oh, look, he's going. He's off.
I gotta go beat up the guy right behind you.
I've had it. I'm on it.
It's only 7:30, Adam, so you've got to talk for another 45 minutes.
You don't have to.
You're fine. I apparently have to. So I'm going to show you something that was neat.
No, that's not the right one.
Do you know which one it is? Macworld? Oh, no, I think it's the last one.
Yes, I'm all.
Yep. All right, so this is kind of cool. What to demonstrate bots, what Microsoft came out with is this Q&A maker, and what it does is it will take some site that's kind of an FAQ and actually turn it into a bot that you can interact with. Yes way.
That's pretty cool.
It actually is. It is pretty cool. We should improve it. So let me create a new service. Personal accounts. Different accounts, great.
Do this against like the LinkedIn API and say, does Steve know JavaScript? Yes. Personal FAQ.
All right. So there's a couple neat things about this. So I'm going to add I'm going to call it I watch FAQ. What it can actually do is you can feed it a URL. I guess This one's going to be fine, which is just a simple FAQ. I semi-picked this at random one day, and I showed it to Mark, and he flipped out. So I'm going to feed it a URL, and I'm just going to hit create. That's it. Now, there is some magic they're doing to parse that document. I don't know what that magic is. I think that's impressive unto itself. What it's going to do is it's going to take all the FAQs and it's going to put it into a table. You'll see in a minute.
What is this interface again? Or what is it?
It's called the FAQ Maker. Hold on, let me blow this guys up for you. I'm sorry, it's a little small.
That's also Command Plus.
I'm refusing. I'm refusing.
It's Q&A-maker.ai.
Yeah.
It'll be on the video when it gets posted on YouTube.
Assuming it records. So what this does is it magically, don't know how, magically went ahead and parsed the HTML. I'm assuming they use at least some type of proper formatting on the document to allow this to happen, or not. And it brought everything in. So what I'm going to do is say save and retrain. And what this is going to do is going to go ahead and start developing a model for me. Okay, and then let's hit publish, right? Yes.
Yeah, your first row had some. It just said like hello and hi in each column.
How do I test it?
Click on, yeah, click.
I haven't used this in a while.
Try edit and run.
Just do the
On the
February
right-hand
8th one. We
side,
won't know.
just edit and then.
No.
Isn't there a testing on the bottom? There used to be. They've gone and changed it, haven't they?
Oh.
Test
there's
on
a
the left. There you go.
All right. So this is kind of neat.
Can I use Siri on that one?
So now I can kind of test it based on what it brought in, and it can actually enable me to train the bot in kind of real time. So I don't know who has a question on.
Can I use Siri on the Apple Watch?
What if you just say it? Can I use Siri on it?
Yeah, misspell it.
On the Apple Witch. There you go.
That look good?
Yeah.
Yes, just hold down the digital crown on your way and Siri will pop up. Better yet, simply raise your wrist and say, hey Siri.
Cool. Yeah, I saw it in FAQ. Someone said it
Oh,
will
well,
actually
that's
pick
not
it
even a
up.
challenge.
Yeah, so ask the question differently.
Oh, but before you go off that,
Does Siri work?
but before you go off that, you can actually say, it actually found 4 different, it picked this one as the top one, but it found 4 other ones that related to Siri. So it says, yes, to use the Apple Watch, you need an iPhone. So that's not really related too much to Siri. No, that was definitely the best one. But if it was something else, I can actually train it and say, yes, that's the one, and I can keep asking stuff. But what's another question? What's another question?
What is Siri?
It's related to Apple Watch smart bands.
Is there an Apple Watch for sale on Amazon?
What colour's my octopus?
Here we go. I got a bunch of stuff back, and it was
Bunch of stuff.
the Apple Watch, and it gives you all that. So it gives you all the different bands, but actually, it's kind of more related to bands. So yeah, I mean,
No, it's only got what's there to go on, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to make up answers.
correct.
I know, it's bullshit, but.
So that was a kind of a cool example of a use case for Apple Watch. I mean, not Apple Watch, but framework
Kind of
using Q&A Maker.
AI domain.
Using that option, we are training the bot.
Yes. So if I said this is the better option, which I don't think it is, but if it was, I just hit save and train, and I can keep kind of training it. Now, what I wish is they would offer that interface for every bot. Maybe they will one day, but this is kind of a new thing they came out with to kind of demonstrate.
What if we select the none of the above and then ask the same question again?
Then we'll come back with whatever they selected before.
Go on then.
Make me type
Do
again?
it. Look at this, copy it.
copy and pasted the rest of the day.
You guys were not giving that hard a time to Mark when he was up here. He's not even letting me copy it. See?
It's because you made fun of
I think there was some cookie man for copy paste.
No, he's actually abstracted copy paste. He showed me earlier. He doesn't even do Command C
Leap.
and Command V. He's not into that. He
So yeah, there you go.
touches his
So.
Andy misspelt it on purpose just to demonstrate the earlier question of does it handle it? That wasn't the actual question, but it was close enough.
Oh,
Yeah.
OMG, how much?
You ask it multiple questions in one line. Well,
Pricing for each one.
there we go.
So the second one is going to be better answer.
Pricing, there you go.
You do something like,
There you go.
what color is it, and does it have Surrey?
I could. Do you want me to ask
We
you
just
that?
all want to buy Apple Watch.
No, he wants to know if it'll answer two questions.
Oh.
Yeah, or is it a 1-1?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't understand your question. So if I was to say what?
What color is it?
What color and how much?
Does it have Surrey?
Yeah, I mean, not two questions. I think that's where you hit the limitation. But yeah,
Still.
still cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it took me what, a couple minutes?
Ask
Type in a
if it has a
URL.
happy face.
Only if you buy it.
I don't even know what
I
that
mean,
question
because it
means.
has a watch face.
Bring down the server.
Ask it,
Yeah,
what
there
are
we
you
go.
wearing?
Watch faces.
Yeah,
Pretty good.
better than you would expect, right?
You don't have to do anything but copy and paste, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's pretty good. I like that.
Seriously, I spent like half an hour kind of dealing with a bot trying to trip it up. And it was amazing the answers that were coming back.
Better than you expected.
Oh yeah, I'm like, a stupid question is like, oh, do you miss your body? It came back with, do you miss your brain?
well, attitude. I like that.
You biatch. There's the hyphen, you know.
See, little do you know, there's some just
Oh, there's no
person
reason
behind
to
that.
start
No, there's probably a
cursing.
person.
You
The
know, it's
actual
amazing
person
the
sitting there.
responses that were coming back. So,
This bot's amazing.
Yeah.
it was. I thought it was.
So you had a slide to show.
I have one more slide, guys.
Yeah.
And this is a cool one. So, demo the other bots. This was the flow. I kind of glossed over that. This is the flow I showed you with the PSC bot. But beyond bots, what's interesting about this, and people have already done this, and I'm going to do it as well so I can have that a part of the next presentation, is this is just a conversation that happens to be over text. There's nothing stopping for you for integrating the same thing using the bot framework to communicate with the voice assistants that are getting really, really popular, like Alexa, Google Home, and this can now become the platform for that channel because it does expose a REST endpoint that allows you to hook it into whatever you want at that point. So there's already a couple of blog posts on people doing this and having success with it. So I gotta check that out myself, but you know, that's something that kind of, it would be really nice for this. I mean, it's really creating the engine around conversation. So, anything else? I think that's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.